Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope everyone is good. Before starting my makeup tutorial for this video, I would kindly request everyone if they can follow me on my Instagram page, Mughal Brides Makeup. So here I'll be giving her a glam Bharat makeup look. I'm filling her eyebrows with Anastasia Beverly Hills Chocolate Brow Powder Duo. I am filling the lines with darker tones and I'm filling inside with the lighter shade. After doing that, I prepping her lid with P. Louise eye primer, which is in the shade of Rumor. Spreading it all over on her lid, taking it out from the corners, doing the other eyelid with a flat brush. This works really well. It's kind of give me a canvas to dab my eyeshadows on. Once that is done, I guess you can take it on top as well and make sure that you blur the edges, otherwise they give those harsh white lines. Once that is done, I blend the primer with a damp sponge all over, top and bottom. Here I have Krylon Aqua Brown Cake on my flat brush. It is a damp brush and I am going in tapping motions all over the lids. So make sure that the brush is damp and the color is Aqua Brown Cake Eyeliner. Make sure the entire socket is covered, and once the socket is covered, I am going to blur out the edges. There should not be sharp edges. The transition should be really smooth. Once the edges are blurred out and there are no harsh lines left, I am going to buff it off with a thick brush. Now make sure that there are no harsh lines. See how it's evenly blended on both the eyes, inside to the outside as well. Once the eyelids are blurred, I have picked up Huda Beauty's Mauve Obsession and I have picked up a really darker shade in there. That powder, deep brown, I am tapping on her lids. It gives a good depth once you cover the liquid with a matte powder, and just blur it the edges as well. Make sure that the lower base has deep colors and it fades away into a smoke. I'm using the same brown from Huda Mauve Obsessions on the lower lid and I am buffing out the edges as well. Make sure that it gives a nice doe-eyed look when you put it at the bottom. I'm using a flat brush to go ahead on the lower lids. Same again, buffing at the edges so that there are no harsh lines. It looks nicely blended on the entire eyes, lower as well as the top. Now wherever I find that the color is less, I keep on adding more. Here I have Kiko Gold Dust. I'm using a pencil brush to put it on. I'm making sure that it goes on her lid or right on top of the eyeball. Then again, making sure that the edges are blurred. In eye makeup, it's just blending. The more you blend, you get that uniform look on the eyes. Here I'm going all the way from inside outwards in a dabbing motion. You can dab. Sometimes you need to drag too, looking at the eye socket. Now I'm underlining her waterline with Inglot Gel Eyeliner number 77. And even if the eye waters at this stage, it's perfectly alright because the eye tends to water if anything goes inside. And I am brushing very lightly on her lower lid so that it gives a smoky look. I have a smoky look planned for her eyes. Now with the same gel eyeliner, I have eyelined her eyes and I am buffing it out with a flat brush, cut crease brush from Krylon. going inside the inner lids too, so that there are no white gaps left. They look extremely bad once the camera captures the pictures. So all the way inside to outside, make sure that the black line is there. Now with the cleansing wipes, I am cleansing all her face, which has been prepped before. And I'm really very particular about prepping the face. Here I'm using LC Glow Enhancing Oil. It's a dry face oil, and I'm rubbing it very well all over her face here. So it's an LC Enhancer Oil for dry face. Once the face is prepped, I am using Urban Decay Optical Illusion Complexion Primer. Even though I don't see a lot of open pores, but the primer really helps in taking in the foundation. Once the skin has been prepped, I will be using now on her under eyes Krylon Oriental stick. I'm using a flat brush so that it goes into the minute details underneath her eyes, and I get a canvas to work on when the complexion is evenly toned. All the way wherever I see the gray patches that needs to be fixed. And now with a damp brush, I am just dabbing it off inside her skin. Here I'm using foundations, Huda Beauty foundations. Huda Beauty foundations in the shades of toasted coconut and toffee. I'm blending it with the flat brush, and thereafter I will be dabbing them in the skin with a damp sponge. I prefer making the foundations on my palette, evenly mixing them. They give the actual color of the client's skin. Once that has been done, I am putting on the Tarte Shape Tape Medium and Light concealer and highlighting underneath her eyes, and wherever I want the light to come in. So under the nose, on the side of the nose, underneath the lower lip, and thereafter dabbing it with the damp sponge. When the foundation concealer has been done very well on the skin, I will go ahead and use my liquid Kiko Milano highlighter. The Kiko Milano highlighter is in the shade, let me see. So the Kiko Milano liquid highlighter in the shade On The Go. I believe liquid highlighter has a beautiful glow once you put that on, and then you put a dry highlight on top of that. Here I'm using MAC bronzer in the shade Give Me Sun. So basically in the hollows of her cheek, on the side of the nose, she has a beautiful straight nose, but yet we do have to contour it a bit. Thereafter, I'm just dabbing it with my damp sponge so that it blurs out all the sharp lines. Highlighting her nose with the same Kiko Milano On The Go highlight. Baking with Huda Beauty banana bread. It works really well to conceal the under eye lines. And thereafter I'm using Laura Mercier translucent powder all over her face. After that, I'm using a dry highlighter, as I mentioned before, that once you put on a dry highlighter on a liquid highlighter, it works really well. And here I'm using a Sweet Touch Halo. It's a brand that I got from Pakistan. It works wonders. It is a Sweet Touch Halo highlight, which goes on the high of the cheekbones, tip of the nose, on the upper lip as well. so that it highlightens. Here I'm evenly diffusing the highlighter on the high of her cheekbones. Make sure that there aren't any harsh lines and the highlighter is diffused really well with the blush. Once that is done, I am going to apply the blush. Here the blush I'm using is Stila Pink. The reason why I'm using my fingers is because with the body heat, the blush really melts well into the skin, and thereafter you can dab it with the damp sponge. Once the blush gets absorbed, it gives a nice pinky peachy effect. You can use powder blush on top of that. After putting on the eyelashes, I have to see how they look. I can trim it at the edges if they are too long. Here I'm using Balm Cosmetics Liquid Waterproof Eyeliner. I really love this eyeliner because it gives a very strong and the kind of depth I want as an eyeliner. It gives that deep effect. Pencil, here I'm using Morphe Cosmetics in the shade of Sweet Heat. I try not to overline the lip if it's not needed. Here I am making sure that the lips are just a bit overlined so that the lip color that I will be using won't be a red. It's going to be in a shade of pink, which is MAC Powder Kiss Sultriness. I want to go a bit in lighter tones when the dress is red, either peach or pinks. Here I thought of using a pink in a powder kiss shade so that it mellows down the redness of the dress. And just a tad bit of a gloss. You can use any gloss. I'm not very particular. Anything that has a longevity in it. There you go. She's all dressed up. You can see a smoky look of her eyes. Hope you like it. नैना तेरे कजरारे हैं, नैनों पे हम